We need to expropriate them, and they need to pick up the tab for this. But we also need to do two other things. We need to close that hole, which may require some serious action like a peaceful nuclear explosive at this point. And we need to start cleaning up that oil. And these things have not really been done. They've been paralyzed because the Obama administration is committed to British policies, and it tries to paper that over with the perception game. They play the same game BP does in terms of while we do these horrible things, we want you to think we're very nice people.
Well, you know, in the specific case of what happened in the Gulf, and remember that explosion occurred, I believe it was April 20th.
Yeah, 2 months ago.
So basically, we're really deep into this. But Lyndon LaRouche raised the point that whether or not the initial explosion was a willful act of sabotage or not, what's very clear is that from the point that that explosion occurred and 11 people were killed there, BP has done everything possible to maximize the economic destructiveness coming as the result of this. We know that the U.S. government, through the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, came in day one with extremely accurate estimates of just how big the leak was. And they said it would be between 65,000 and 110,000 barrels per day. And those numbers, 2 months later, have proven to be absolutely accurate. The Obama White House ordered NOAA to keep that information to themselves and instead went with the lies, the absolute willful lies that were being presented by BP, minimizing the threat every step along the way, minimizing the level of damage. You've got a rabid environmentalist as Energy Secretary in the Bush administration, Stephen Chu. He took a bunch of experts down during the very first week. And early on, the Obama administration had the option of using peaceful nuclear explosives to cap this well much earlier in this process. And they outright refused it, not because of scientific or technical reasons, but because of ideological and political reasons.
Yeah, and it's an absolute disaster. And now you look at what Obama is talking about in the administration. You had Chu, who went to a wind farm in Maine.
Right, exactly.
You know, who's pushing, they're pushing this greeny agenda. Obama talked about this in his speech, cap and trade and things like this. So they're saying, you know, the problem is not BP, not the fact that their negligence has caused a major disaster, but that we use too much oil and we have to cut back.
Right.
So we're going green. That's the policy. This is Obama's green Malthusian agenda, this fascist agenda, which has been there all along.
Right.
And that's their policy response to this, which is exactly wrong.
And I think that the case of BP just underscores the fact that Obama, Lyndon LaRouche has put it in very blunt terms, he's a British agent. It's not the first time in American history that we've had a British agent occupying the White House. But under the circumstances of this crisis, this is the gravest threat to the United States that we've faced perhaps in the history of the nation. And having a British agent in as president creates an impossible situation. And this is why Mr. LaRouche is saying over and over again that we're not going to solve any of these situations so long as Obama is in the White House. Now, we want a constitutional process. We want impeachment for actions that he's already committed, whether it's the Hitler-modeled health care policy, the way that he has completely shirked any presidential responsibility in this crisis in the Gulf of Mexico, the refusal to go after the opium trade in Afghanistan, knowing full well that it's the opium that's the source of funding for the very insurgents that are killing American soldiers there. It's a laundry list, and there's virtually no exceptions in terms of his behavior. So there's ample reason for him to be impeached. And he's the kind of person who, under the threat of impeachment, will crack and will probably be subject to pressure to actually resign. You get Biden in, you get a team of people who are at least clear in their loyalties, and bring a competent bunch of advisors around, and we can solve all of these problems. You know, the economic crisis, the monetary crisis, the solution's on the table. It's Glass-Steagall. So
yeah,
Obama's the obstacle.
Yes, he's got to go. I mean, it is the British policy is to destroy the United States.
Exactly.
That has been their long-term goal. That's the why we had this whole rise of the derivatives markets and things like that, to destroy the United States from within.
Right.
All right. So now you have that process has begun. We're in the end game here. So you have this oil spill, which is wreaking havoc. You have a president who is standing by not only doing nothing, but actually running cover for the British in all of this.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's got to go. And the population can force this change in the peaceful way that you say. But we have to have a clear understanding of what it is we need to do. Now, if you turn your back on the solution, what you're left with is fascist austerity.
That's right.
So what Barney Frank is actually supporting is fascism. It's the destruction of everything the United States stands for.
That's right.
You know, here's a sitting congressman who is rejecting the idea of saving the nation in favor of saving the financial system.
Right.
I mean, now Barney, for example, now he is one of the key players in the way in which the bailout has shifted into the real estate market through things like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Right. Which a report this week indicated we'll probably need $1 trillion in subsidies from the government.
Right. Exactly.
You know? So, I mean, they talk about the bailout as if it's over, but it's not over by any means, and the government is being hit with assuming liabilities through its support for the real estate market, which really is support for real estate-related derivatives.
Right.
You know, there's the mortgage-backed securities, the CDOs, and all of the other, you know, insane things that are piled on top of all of that.
Right.
And this is what Barney is supporting.
Well, when you go for austerity in a period when you've got somewhere between 30 and 35 million Americans who are in the job market, in the labor market, who are out of work, then you are just guaranteeing the complete destruction of the country, because the austerity measures that you're talking about are going to not only make it more difficult to create real jobs in the economy, but it's going to reduce the ability of the states to handle the burgeoning roles of people who genuinely need public assistance because they're out of the job market and they've got nowhere to go. So this is a recipe for a social explosion. And again, Lyndon LaRouche's view is that this is not something that's coming up end of this year, into next year. It's not something running on the presidential election calendar, but this is here and now. This is going to blow in the next 30 days, and we're going to be in a different political universe very, very soon. And that's why he says that above all else, the first order of business is the reinstating of Glass-Steagall.
Absolutely. You have to reorganize this banking system. That you have to go back to an actual banking system and shut down this casino. You know, there's no way around that. That you separate out all the speculation, and we'll deal with all of that. But you go back to an ordered banking system, a fixed exchange rate system, because one of the ways in which this whole bubble was created was when Nixon foolishly took the dollar off of gold in 1971, then we began the process of actually losing control. You know, that broke the fixed exchange rate. So then you had the imperial financiers like Jacob Rothschild and the Inner Alpha Group, right, which were set up actually to take advantage of that and speculate in currencies and begin this process of globalizing the economy.
Right.
You know, so this was a horrible mistake, and we've never recovered from it, and we really absolutely have to go back to that. Right. So Glass-Steagall to reorganize the banking system with strict regulations and the fixed exchange rate. And then we provide the basis where we can go to a credit system.
Right.
And, you know, so we shut down the Federal Reserve, we put in it a receivership,